Today I'm in the beautiful city of Bristol, and on every street photography walk I like to try and get a few practice shots in at the beginning just to get my eye in and get my confidence up for the rest of the day. So in this scene I noticed these green boulders, like this little sculpture, and there wasn't much foot traffic and the light was a bit dull, so I didn't really wait too long here, but I thought that it would be a really cool shot if someone had a colour to colour match with the boulders on the ground. So I just waited here for a little bit, not too long, didn't really have much patience this early on. I got an okay shot, nothing special, but it's nice to just start off the day with. I'm always looking for texture that catches my eye on the street, so this in the background for me was quite interesting, but I wanted to make it more interesting by adding depth and layers. So using the car as a foreground interest and getting a little bit lower down, I managed to kind of make what is already quite an interesting scene more captivating, just by adding a bit of depth and layering to the images I'm coming away with here. Now this is a simple, classic street scene, so using an archway to frame a subject. You do see this kind of shot all the time, but that's absolutely fine, nothing wrong with that. And for me, it's all about trying to get the best shot you can from the environment that you're in. You can only ever shoot to the conditions. So when the light was flat and grey, the archway here is really beautiful, nice leading lines, nice subframing, and it was really a case of just hanging around and waiting for some interesting people to walk past. Never going to be an award-winning image, but to me, I really enjoy this kind of street photography. Lots of photographers really spend a lot of time trying to find their own street photography style, but for me, it really only shows when you just go out and take a lot of photos. I think one really great way though of developing your own style is to experiment and never pigeonhole yourself just doing the same sort of idea in different variations over and over. And a good way to experiment is to change your shutter speed. I really like this image here. The slower shutter speed adds a bit of movement into the image. That complements the colourful graffiti in the background and the texture, and it makes for an image that is quite striking, and I really like it. At this point in the day, the light was quite flat and dull and boring. Not much contrast going around, and it was quite tricky shooting conditions. When the conditions are like that though, what I turn to is reflections. I turn to abstraction, layering and texture. Using window reflections and especially text on windows can be a great way to incorporate those techniques and come away with interesting photos that you can capture at any lighting conditions that you come across. This particular photo is nothing really very special, but it's important for me to just start getting my eye in, because I find that looking for reflections requires a different way of seeing, different reactions, maybe going at a bit of a slower pace to try and find out the best compositions that you can make from a scene. So yeah, getting one in the bag and then really starting to look for some interesting reflections that can make for some captivating street shots a little bit later on in the video. These shots here, not everyone's cup of tea I would imagine, but I'm always attracted to abstraction on the street and creating something from nothing, and the ripped posters on an old billboard can often make really exciting abstract images that just make you want to stare at them for a while, and each time you look at them you notice something different. Heading down into the docks area of Bristol, I noticed all these windows that had these posters or wraps on them. Lots of bright primary colours, shapes, texture, so all the stuff I was talking about earlier that I'm attracted to try and make an image from. In a location like this, though, often an image won't present itself straight away, so patience is the key, and I think patience in general is one of the best tools you can have in street photography. Not just patience waiting around for someone to walk into an interesting scene that you found, but patience to work a scene, patience to go out time and time again when you just can't really get anything that you like. And yeah, if you can build a bit of patience and you can build a bit of resilience, you'll then go a long way in street photography. So all I did here was spend quite a lot of time really just working the scene, waiting for people to walk past, walking up and down, changing my perspective, changing my field of view, and getting closer and further away from the windows, and ultimately just experimenting to come away with a handful of shots that I think are great. Again, there was probably a better photo to be had if I'd spent some more time here, but when it comes to patience, you do need to know when to wait, and sometimes you need to cut your losses and move on to the next location. So it's all about getting a bit of a balance right when you're out on a street photography walk. Who doesn't love a gnarly old graffiti-ridden phone box? Probably not the first place you think of to make a street photograph from, maybe, but for me, again, similar to what I've talked about earlier in this video, is just finding that texture, finding that layering to add depth to the photo. And here I just wanted to fill the spaces or the gaps that I could find in the graffiti on the window, and add in the human element just to anchor the images. This part of the day is where I really started to notice a lot of reflections that I hadn't really seen before out on previous walks in Bristol, and I wanted to take advantage of it, so made sure that there was no one standing behind the reflections just to avoid an awkward sort of situation where they might think I'm taking a picture of them. And I spend a bit of time here, again, just waiting for people to walk past, really looking for the human element to complete the image alongside the big, bold, colourful text on the window. Great framing can go a long way to building a strong composition in your street photography, and a great way to practice framing is to use text or windows. On top of that, the more interesting the subject you can find to put inside a frame in your image, the better. And here someone was walking past with an umbrella, even though it was a sort of a hot day, and that to me added a bit of contrast and was a great subject to put inside the text as a solid subframe for the photo. I really like this window, and I probably spent about 20 minutes here just hanging around trying to make a shot work. I took loads and loads of shots here, hoping one would pan out and be a great shot. So that's the other thing, if you're a digital street photographer, you can afford to take as many shots as you want. Some people like taking fewer photos, some people are really happy to go on burst mode and take lots and lots of photos. And for me, I kind of mix it up. But yeah, if I find a scene that I think has real strong potential for a great street shot, I will spend a lot of time there, and I will keep taking shots until I get one that I think really works. I'd love to know what your favourite street photographs are from the video in the comments, or if you think any work or don't work for whatever reason. I think it's always great to get feedback on your work and see what other people think, because that's really important, because everyone has their own opinion on what makes a good street photograph or not. Also, if you have any questions for me for anything street photography related at all, fire them away in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. As I've mentioned before, creative subframing is so powerful as a street photography compositional tool, and you can really use anything to create interesting frames in an image. Just like here, I'm using the leaves of this tree to add a bit of depth and a bit of framing for this sharply dressed character, which just makes them stand out, and it's just far more powerful than just having a shot of the character by themselves from that distance. Another compositional technique that I like to explore a lot in my street photography is using negative space and extreme framing to put emphasis on a subject and to draw the eye, as well as show an environment that you might not notice if you're not looking to see in that kind of way. For example, in this shot, it would have worked if I just got a bit closer and taken a picture of the lady. I liked her pose and the colourful trousers she was wearing and the pop of yellow in the background. But for me, adding in that really extreme framing and that extreme negative space using this post really makes for a more powerful image. Let me know what you think in the comments if that works or not. Again, the same in this scene. I was just using this bridge for some framing, and it was just a case of waiting for the right person to walk through and snapping off the shot. In and of itself, probably not the most interesting thing, I think, just having someone walk past the wall. But if you frame it up and if you kind of add in a bit of texture that way, then it builds more of a story. It makes you think, has a more of a sort of voyeuristic quality. It's a technique used in a lot of filmmaking. So yeah, for me, it makes a much more engaging and visually pleasing, also story-driven image if you can add in a bit of that framing or texture to a photograph. I've spoken about this before on this channel, but also when it comes to using reflections and using framing, it's a really great technique to use if you're a beginner, because it stops you from having to directly take a photograph of someone, which can be quite a nerve-wracking and daunting thing when you're doing it for the first time. So yeah, if you use that reflection or use that framing, you're just one step removed from the person you're taking a photograph of, and it can make it a lot easier to approach street photography in that way. But not only that, it also has all the other positive things we talked about to make for an image that includes more depth and is potentially much more striking than if you'd just taken a picture of the subject directly themselves. I found this great wall covered in old posters and graffiti, and that to me makes for such an exciting photo opportunity. And it was really a case of noticing it in the first place, so that's a skill in itself, but then also really observing and making the most of the texture and the abstraction that you found to get the composition right. So if you do come across a scene like this and you like this kind of street photography, then do make sure to really work it and try different angles, try different compositions, take as many shots of it as you can, because the last thing you want to do is get back into your editing software and have missed the shot when it was there if you just spent a bit more time to find it. If you made it this far through the video, then thank you so much for sticking around and watching. I really, really do appreciate the support. As always, it's massive. So if you did enjoy the video, please go ahead and give it a like and a comment. All that good stuff really helps with me with the algorithm and getting the video out to more people to enjoy. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.